So this is the second part of the parabolas. We're going to look at the properties of our equations and our graphs. So what you are familiar with up to this point is vertex, maximum, minimum, roots, and axis of symmetry. Also domain and range, but those are components that you've looked at up to this point. So we've got two new vocabulary words here that you might want to pause and write down. The first is a focus point. It's a fixed point within the parabola. So if this is my parabola, there would be a fixed point lined up with the vertex inside that parabola. And then the other term is directrix. It's an invisible line outside of the parabola. And the biggest thing that you need to remember about these is that they are equal distance from the vertex. So whatever distance you have from the focus point to the vertex is the same as the directrix to the vertex, okay? They are equal distance apart. Now we have a formula, and remember our equation, our basic equation, looks like this. Be a minus. Okay, and so our A term is something that we are going to have to calculate. So in order to find that A term, we're going to use this formula. The absolute of A equals 1 over 4C. Okay, now C is not the C within a parabola or a polynomial. C represents the distance from the vertex to the focus point or the directrix, either one. So this distance is your C value. It's the distance here. Okay? Distance from the vertex to the focus point, or vertex to the directrix. All right? That distance is what your C is. So we're going to graph some equations or some parabolas based on information that are given to us, okay? So I've got several different scenarios here that I want us to look at. So the first one says, write an equation for a graph that is set to all points in, that should be in, the plane that are equal distance from the point F, F meaning focus point is 0, 1. So 0, 1, I'm going to put a dot here. And the line y equals negative 1. So if we're y equals negative 1, we are right here. All right, now this is F, our focus point, and this is our directrix. Okay, this is the focus point, and the dotted line is our directrix. Now remember, I said up here, this is important, that the distance from the vertex to the focus point is at C. And remember, we said right here, the focus point and the directrix are equal distance from the vertex. So if the focus point and directrix are equal distance from my vertex is right between them. So it's right here in the middle, okay? That's my vertex. So let's just see what we have so far. We have a vertex here, a focus point here. The focus point is inside the vertex. So my parabola is going to open upward, like that. Now we don't know exactly how wide. We're going to look at that in a minute. So I know I have a y equals. I have an A term, which I do not know yet, but I do know the vertex. The vertex is 0, 0. Okay? So that being the case, our vertex is 0, so I don't have x minus anything. It's just x squared, and I don't have plus anything. So the only thing I'm going to need to be able to find out is the A term. Now we had a formula a while ago that said the absolute of A is 1 over 4C. Remember, this is the distance from the vertex to the focus point. And if you look at my graph, it's 1 unit. So my A term is 1 over 4 times 1, which is 1/4. Therefore, my equation looks like this: 1/4 x squared. Okay, so this is the equation for my graph. I could plug some numbers in and see where it lands, and then get a very accurate picture of my parabola. So let's just try something. If I stick a 0 here, we know it's going to be 0, so that's no good. So let's stick a 2 here for x, and if x is 2, 2 squared is 4, and 1/4 of 4 is 1. So really, I've got my parabola pretty much in the correct position. Okay? So you can always stick values in for x and then find out what your y is. Alright, so a couple things to remember. Alright, I just want to go over them again. The focus point is inside the parabola. The directrix is outside the parabola. Okay, you notice that on our picture here. This will tell you what direction your vertex is moving in, or your graph is moving in. The focus point and directrix are equal distance from the vertex. That's important. And when we go to find the a term in our equation, we're going to use a equals 1/4c. And c is the distance from the focus point to the vertex. Alright, so let's just see if we can do another one. Alright, the same type of information. We have a focus point at -7, 0. So -7, 0. And then we have a line at x is -1. So here's x is -1. That's not very straight, but okay. Now, our parabola has to open a certain way so that the focus point is inside the parabola. So look at your picture. Which direction do you think the parabola should open? It should open to the left. Okay? Now, remember the directrix and the focus point are equal distance from the vertex. So let's see how far we've got between them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units between them. So it's going to be right smack dab in the middle of that. And then our parabola is going to open this way. Okay? Because the focus point has to be in, the directrix has to be out. And they are equal distance from the vertex. So let's see what we have right now. Okay? Our vertex is, let's see, that's -4, 0 is our vertex. Alright, so far we don't know a yet, but we did move on the x. So that's an x minus a -4, and we didn't go anywhere on the y, so we're not going to put a plus k there. So let's figure out our a. Remember, absolute of a is 1/4c. So from the vertex to the focus point is 3 units. So our a term is 1/12. Okay? Now, we determine if it should be positive or negative based on the direction that the parabola is moving. The parabola is opening to the left, which is negative. So my equation for this graph, with a focus point of -7, 0 and a directrix of x equals -1, is y equals, ooh, did I do that wrong? Did somebody catch that? Does it open on the y? No, it does not open on the y. So it's not a y equals, and this is not x minus anything inside. Okay, so let's pay attention because we gotta get this right. If it opens on the x, it's an x equals. Our a term is correct because we did that by distance. That means this is the y with the square, and since we did not move on the y, we don't have to put any plus or minus there. We did, however, move on the x, so that's my minus or plus k. It happens to be a -4. This is the equation. for this graph. All right, so let's pay attention, because if our parabola opens on the y, our equation is y equals. If, however, the parabola opens on the x, then we have an x equals. Okay? All right, let's see what this next one is. It says graph and write an equation of a parabola with a vertex at the origin, so there's our vertex, and a focus point at 0, -1. All right, now this is our vertex at 0, 0, and our focus point 0, -1. Our parabola is opening downward. So that is a y equals, and it's negative. We need to find the a value. So remember, absolute of a is 1 over 4c, and the distance between the vertex and the focus point is a 1. So our a term is 1/4. We did not go anywhere on the x or the y, so for the vertex, so we have nothing added or subtracted. So that one was pretty simple. All right, so let's try this one. Graph and write an equation for the parabola with a vertex of 3, 1. So here is 3, 1. And a directrix of x equals 1. So here is x equals 1. Oops, not straight, but we get it right. All right, so if this is the vertex, that's the vertex there, our parabola has to graph so that the directrix is on the outside. So our parabola is going this way. Okay? That is opening on the x, and it's positive. So let's look at our distance. 1 over 4c from the directrix to the focus, the vertex is 2 units. So our a term is 1 over 8. Our vertex, remember, is 3 and 1. So since we opened on the x, this is a y minus k, and our k value is a 1 to the square, plus our h, which is a positive 3. So this is the equation for a parabola with a vertex of 3, 1, and a directrix at x equals 1. Okay? So this video has been about the graphing. I know it took a little bit longer, but I'm hoping that that was enough to understand how to graph these. You do have a few to do that way. Okay, so I'll do another short video to end out this this section on parabolas.